Hey friends, welcome to Nina's Notes. Today with me, I have Jay Devram, the co-founder of Lightwork Home. Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today.
Thank you, Nina. Really excited to be on. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really excited for this conversation. I'm really curious about home environmental toxins, like just the environment we spend all the time and how we can improve it. But I know that that's not where you started your career. You started in investment banking. So can you tell me, there has to be a story there. What was it that got you interested in home environments?
Yeah, there is a story there. So yes, I used to be an investment banker working in London. I moved into a new flat. I started getting on well. Realized I had a mold issue. I moved out, got that sorted. But I've always been into like health, wellness, longevity. So that experience led me down the rabbit hole of environmental toxins. Started doing more research into different things in the home that could impact your health. So your air quality, your water quality, your light, EMF exposure. But no one was really talking about it. I tried to find someone in London who'd come to my home and test for everything. There was no service available. So that's what led me to kind of start the company and get more into home health.
So you said you were feeling a bit ill. Was there something in particular that you felt? Like, did you mistake it for stress or burnout? Like, how did you kind of come to the conclusion that it was your home environment?
Yeah, so it started quite soon after I moved into my new apartment. So I knew there was some correlation there. And it was more like respiratory issues, asthma, a bit of brain fog. And yeah, it was pretty easy to kind of figure out what it was. And I moved out only a month after. So I wasn't suffering for that long as many other people do, but it did spark the idea and lead me more down into more into the space.
Okay. Most people think their home is probably one of the safest environments that they can be in. What are the hidden hazards that we don't realize are affecting us daily?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just start by saying our thesis is that the home environment has such a huge impact on your health, but it's so often overlooked. And there's so many different things in the home that could impact your health. I can go through all the parameters. So there's your air quality, your water quality, your lighting, EMF exposure, and then mold. Those are the five main things which we look at, and each one of them has their own health issues and issues which they're linked to. Yeah.
So let's go through them. So which one has the biggest effect on our biology? Is it mold? Is it like volatile organic compounds, VOCs? Is it lighting? Okay, side note, personally, I'm obsessed with lighting. So I have a lot of questions about lighting for you, but we'll go into that after
Yeah.
this one. And then EMFs and just air quality, which is the one that's going to impact our biology the most?
I would say mold is probably one of the most high risk, but also awareness is out of all the parameters, awareness around mold and mold exposure is the highest. So people are conscious about having mold inspection, checking their home for moisture, etc. But I would say mold can cause quite severe health issues. Water also can cause some big problems. We've tested homes, we found arsenic, uranium in the water, and constant exposure to those in your drinking water over time can have huge impacts down the line. We also find some severe EMF issues, which I can touch on, later on.
So you found uranium in people's water, and I know that you only operate in the United States and in the UK. Where can you tell me where you tested positively for
Yeah.
uranium in the water? That's wild.
Yeah, it was in Austin in America. One of our clients, they had an $8,000. The client is super into health and fitness. I'm super dialed in. They installed their own $8,000 custom water filtration system, but it was installed incorrectly. So water was just passing through. And when we tested it, there was arsenic, uranium in the water. And yeah, it's very clear that those can have very severe health impacts.
100%. Wow, that's a huge. I mean, that's absolutely wild to me because even the water that should be supplied by the local water station should be filtering out for this. When
Yeah.
you walk into someone's home for the first time and you're going to do an assessment, what are red flags that you instantly notice?
Well, it's not really a case of instantly noticing red flags. Our process is quite thorough. So we spend about 2 to 6 hours in the customer's home. We come with like cases full of equipment. It's like with the Ghostbusters. We run lab tests. We scan the whole home with our like custom spatial mapping app and kind of so we can visualize the exposures. So it's more of a detail orientated process. It takes a lot of time. And then after the assessment's done, we have to process all of the data. We collect thousands of data points. And only once that's done, can we have a true sense of what the issues are and how we can fix them. But that being said, on site, there are some things you notice straight away. If the home has lots of like smart home devices, Wi-Fi connected devices always on, then we know that radio frequency might be a problem. We can look at the light bulbs if they're using LEDs all around the home. then you know that blue light is going to be an issue there, and the LEDs might also be flickering. So there's a few things we can kind of sense out on site, but it's more taking all the data, processing it, evaluating it against our standards, and then only once that's done can we give a true recommendation.
Okay, so since you touched on lighting as maybe one of the first things that you notice, and I'm obsessed with lighting, and I have a lot of Wi-Fi connected devices because I have all the Philips Hue lights throughout my entire flat, which I can then control so I don't have as much blue light. But is this a problem? Please don't tell me it's a problem.
Well, Philips Hue, their Wi-Fi, they're connected. So there's a radio frequency exposure there. But on the lighting front, it is better than having the normal LEDs. So most homes have their LEDs, and there's two main issues we see there. One is they're converting AC, alternating current, which is what our home's power system runs on, to direct current, and that conversion process can cause flicker. And this flicker is imperceptible to your naked eye, but it can cause eye strain, migraines, and other issues like that. It might be, as an example, if you go into like a hospital and you think, oh, the light feels so bright, it's not because it's bright, it's because the light's actually flickering. And that's a common issue we see with these LEDs. The other issue is blue light. So the way LEDs are designed is they have a diode, which is a blue light source. Then it has a phosphor coating, and that absorbs part of the blue light and then re-emits it with the other colors, and it leads to the color of the light which you see, so white light or warm light, etc. But some of that blue light gets through, so that's why most LEDs are emitting some blue light. And that blue light, we all know, it can impact your sleep, circadian rhythm. It can also have other impacts on hormone imbalances, mood, linked to depression, etc. And I will also say that changing your lighting is it makes a huge difference straight away. So in my home, after I switched to incandescents, the who comes over is like, oh, the space feels so nice. Like, have you like redesigned it? Like, what's going on here? But it's just I changed the lighting. So it can have a huge impact.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, just changing the lighting is everything. And this is something, living in the US, I have to we just tolerate bad lighting. It's so bizarre. When you move into an apartment, the lights are already installed. You deal with your flat. Your apartment manager usually manages the lights. Like, they'll replace their big long fluorescent bulb that's in the kitchen for you, so you don't even think about changing this out if you're renting.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Germany, where you have live wires hanging out of the wall for where your light should go, and so you have to buy your own fixtures and all of this, and then that leads you to just choose better bulbs, I think. And yeah, same thing. When people come over to my place, they're like, it's so warm and cozy in here. And I have just total control over even the colors that I want to use. So I highly recommend this. I'm glad there's a health benefit to it, but also just an aesthetic feeling. And then there's a whole field called neuroaesthetics where your brain actually does feel better in environments that are more aesthetically pleasing. So I like that there's a couple layers there. It's like not just we could design aesthetically, and it could also affect our biology. That's pretty cool. And so, okay, we talked a bit about lighting. We talked about mold. Let's go into EMFs. So in what sort of regions, I guess I'm going to assume in more urban environments, EMFs are going to be more of a problem, or maybe actually in a rural area and a house might be near, I don't know, a cell tower, a power station or something like this. Where do you see, I guess, the homes that have the highest readings for EMF, and then what can people do?
Yeah, okay. So it might be helpful if I give a bit of context on what EMFs actually are, and I can go into them because there's different types, and each one has different sources and different remediation patterns. So EMFs in general are electromagnetic fields, and there's like natural EMFs and non-natural EMFs. So natural EMFs, so sunlight is an EMF, the Earth's magnetic field is also an EMF, and then we have non-natural, or artificial EMFs. And within those, we look at three main things. We look at radio frequency, that comes from Bluetooth connected devices, Wi-Fi. We look at AC electrical fields, that mainly comes from any energized circuit. So a common source is like wall wiring, extension cords, and that kind of thing. And then magnetic fields, which there's a few different sources. It can come from wiring errors. So when there's imbalanced circuit in the home, it can also come from overhead power lines, underground power lines, and different appliances. And each one of them has different sources and different remediation patterns. So in some modern homes, which are full of like Alexas, smart home devices, Sonos speakers, radio frequency is more of a concern. In other homes that are near overhead power lines, underground power lines. Magnetic is more of a concern. Then electric fields is quite common to see in most homes. As an example, one of my co-founders were living in Austin. They had lots of different health issues, had home inspectors come, had doctors, they're working with different doctors, couldn't really figure out what was going on. They had a mold issue, but they also had a underground power line buried 6 feet from their head from their bedroom, powering the entire neighborhood, causing a whole bunch of issues. So, yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
that's a brief overview.
Yeah, and something that you really have to, like, dig in to discover that, yeah, my bedroom is above a power line. That would be quite a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, what were some other let's go through the factors again. We had light,
Yeah.
EMFs, mold. What about
Um,
volatile organic compounds? Is that something that you guys measure for?
we mainly measure that in our water testing. And there's an interesting nuance there, which is essentially that in our assessments, we look at drinking water and other water, so your shower water separately,
Mhm,
because different contaminants can affect you in different ways.
mhm,
So, for example, volatile organic compounds are more of an issue in your shower water because they can vaporize and they can be inhaled
mm,
and absorbed through your skin. But for example, heavy metals, for example, aren't much of an issue in your shower water, but they're more of an issue in your drinking water because you ingest them. So our main focus is the volatile organic compounds in the water. We are exploring adding new parameters where we look at like VOCs emitting from furniture, paint,
mhm,
that kind of thing.
mhm.
But it's not part of our core assessment yet, particularly because it's it's hard to find the right measurement tool to effectively measure.
That makes a lot of sense. So you take this assessment. It takes you, I think you said, up to 6 hours to go through the whole house and map everything. You turn this into probably a ton of data in your assessment. Now, how do you turn that into actionable items that either your team provides or that the client is going to implement into their home?
That's a great question. Yeah. So what we do is, yes, we take all the thousands of data points, we translate it into a 40 to 60 page report, which has all the supporting science, but it's designed to be very intuitive and easy to understand. What we've done to help that process is we've come up with our own Lightwork Exposure Index. So it's like the air quality index, which ranks every exposure in the home on a scale from optimal to very unhealthy. So people can see exactly for each exposure what their health kind of risk is. And then what we also do is we quantify the impact of all the remediation items where possible, so people can prioritize and see what are the highest leverage things they can do and kind of work through the list in that order. In the report, we also include like all the products we recommend and all the remediation steps. So it's as intuitive and simple as process. And then and in terms of the remediation measures, many things are simple, quick changes, simple
Mhm.
products to buy. If there is like a severe structural issue, like a magnetic field issue, or there's a severe mold issue, then we'll find the contractors, brief them, verify the work's all done. We don't take any affiliate commissions or kickbacks or anything. Our only priorities are like the customer's health and making sure their home is as healthy as possible in the most efficient way.
So, are some of those steps in the remediation plan, any of it like behavior change that your client might have to adopt?
That's a great question. Well, yeah. So on the EMF side, a lot of that is behavioral change.
Mm,
In an ideal world, we'll say switch to Ethernet. That can cause some lifestyle
yeah.
adjustments. Not everyone really wants to do that. As a simpler measure, it can be, okay, turn your Wi-Fi off at night. You don't need it on while you're sleeping.
Mhm,
So, and that can make a huge impact. That's like a third of your exposure gone or even more. Keep your phone outside of your bedroom, put it on airplane mode. If you want to keep the smart home devices, turn them off when they're not in use. So things like that, there are some behavioral changes there. But many of the things are like one-time changes, which you make once,
mhm.
and then it kind of covers you going forward. Like, okay, you install a water filter. Okay, your water is now covered. Get an air purifier. That's now covered. So a lot of it is one-time changes, but there are some behavioral tweaks we can suggest.
Yeah. I think any reason to charge the phone out of the bedroom, any more data that we can give people to do this, I think this is one of like the healthiest, easiest behavior changes that people can do. Because not only is it going to lower your stress, but it's also good to know that, okay, keeping your phone next to your head as you sleep is probably not the most healthy thing for you to be doing. And then also just
Yeah.
being constantly available, blue light at night, all of that we already know.
On the point you just mentioned around EMF, we also do think that like the general public narrative and the media's view is that EMFs aren't harmful. But when you really delve into the science, I'm happy to go into more detail on the science. It's very hard. Like there's so much compelling research. They are linked to quite severe health issues. And
Mhm.
at the least, it warrants taking a precautionary approach, which is yeah, takes a precautionary approach.
I haven't read too much about the clinical studies or health studies that have been done around EMFs and health. Could you give me a high level explanation of, or I think, what would be the
Yeah.
side effects of too much EMF exposure so that somebody could potentially recognize this? And also, yeah, what are people seeing when they actually dive in and look at it directly?
Yeah, so on the side effects, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the EMF exposure is causing. It has been linked to various long-term health issues, which I can touch on, but it might be useful if I give you a bit of context on how the scientific kind of narrative has evolved over the years, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, please.
So just to give you a bit of overview into the background of EMF and the scientific narrative. So the first distinction is looking at ionizing and non-ionizing EMFs. So ionizing radiation includes X-rays, gamma rays, and everyone agrees that these are dangerous. It's why if you're having an X-ray, the technician leaves the room while that's being done. It's because these EMFs have enough photon energy to break the chemical bonds and damage DNA. And then non-ionizing radiation is everything below that. So radio waves, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the electric fields that I mentioned, magnetic fields, etc. And up until the mid 20th century, the view was ionizing is bad, non-ionizing is fine. Then researchers started to realize that non-ionizing radiation could be harmful if it caused thermal effects. So it means if it raised your body temperature. US Navy did a study in the 1970s where they put like rectal thermometers in monkeys, and they realized that when the temperature increased by 1 degree Celsius, they started to see some behavioral change. And that finding is the basis of all the current regulation in the US now, which essentially means that non-ionizing radiation is only bad if it causes thermal effects. But over the past few decades, there's been a ton of research which shows biological effects from non-ionizing radiations at levels far below what causes thermal effects. There's a researcher, Dr. Henry Lai from the University of Washington, who looked at thousands of studies and found that 70 to 90% of those studies showed significant biological effects, things like oxidative stress, neurological impacts, reproductive impacts, etc. Also, the US government did the national has a national toxicology program, and it was like a 10-year, $25 million study, and they found like clear indication of heart tumors in rats from radio frequency radiation. So in summary, the US like regulation only believes non-ionizing radiation can cause harm if there's thermal effects, but that contradicts all the recent research that we've seen. And when you look at the bigger picture, our view is that while more research is needed, there's still very compelling evidence that EMFs can cause like real biological impacts. And it's enough to warrant taking a precautionary approach, especially when a lot of the measures are very simple, not too disruptive. Yeah,
Okay.
that's our
Yeah.
view.
I want to dive into that research. I mean, offline, but yeah, because 1 degree raising someone's body temperature 1 degree C is significant. That is something that we start to feel like we have a fever. That's not a small amount. And yeah, I'm curious about kind of these longitudinal studies that the U.S. toxicology program has done. I'll dive into that, and maybe I'll get back to you with some questions in the future. Once people learn about, okay, they get the assessment, they get some of these the remediation plan. How do they usually react? Are they shocked? Does everything suddenly click and it makes sense? I mean, obviously, if they asked you to invest their home, they're going to take it seriously. But I'm curious about kind of the shock level.
Yeah, there is some element of shock depending on the findings. But what we try to do is communicate everything in a very clear, data-driven way, and always show the solutions as well. So every in most cases, nearly all cases, there is a very simple and very clear remediation measure we can make, which kind of counteracts the shock and maybe the shock which can arise if we find a very severe issue. And we also work with clients through the whole remediation process. So we're with them, we can make sure all the remediation measures get measured, all the remediation issues get fixed, and they'll end up with a home that's safe and healthy and have the peace of mind that the home is supporting the health. So it's not like we give them the results and just leave them, which could cause problems. It's more like, okay, here are the issues, here's how we can fix it, and we're going to help you do it. So
Yeah.
that does counteract some of those.
Yeah, I can imagine that there could be this part relief. You're like, oh, okay, I have this assessment, I have this plan, and then panic. They're like, do I have to move? Or overwhelm. And so that's good to hear that you can kind of help your clients not spiral into paranoia. But do you see that? Do you see that people then do start to spiral into paranoia and maybe they start to worry about things that are outside of your assessment?
Some people who are dealing with other health concerns that they may start believe if well, we have some clients who are dealing with other health concerns, and if they start drawing parallels between what we found and those health concerns, it can cause maybe a bit more kind of stress and nerves. But we're careful to draw the line. We're not diagnosing issues with the human; we're just diagnosing issues in the home. So we don't draw those parallels too closely. Yeah.
How does somebody feel differently in their space once they've gone through kind of your whole remediation plan? Do they report back that they feel that their sleep has improved, maybe their mood, maybe a mystery cough has now vanished? Can you give me some examples of, I guess, the kind of the positive experiences or negative experiences that people have after they've gone through your whole plan?
That's that's a great question. Some of the most direct impacts people have are from changing their lighting because it has a huge
Mhm.
impact on sleep straight away. You can feel the difference immediately. Also, improving the air quality also has a big impact as well. So people who are suffering from asthma, respiratory issues, once we install the right air filters for this. For their space, sized appropriately, etc., they can start to notice those impacts straight away. The other parameters we fix, like water, EMFs, those you can't really feel the impact directly. Those are more like you're more addressing the long-term impact, maybe in 10 years or so from
Mhm.
cumulative exposure.
Mhm.
So people don't feel the impact from those directly, but there is the benefit of having the peace of mind and knowing that, okay, that the home is healthy and safe. A lot of our customers also have young children. So knowing the home is healthy and safe for their family, that mental benefit is quite important and pronounced. Yeah.
Imagine that actually changing the water would be something that your clients would notice straight away, especially if you're in a place where, like, I grew up in Las Vegas, so we have super hard water. Everything is kind of calcified on the faucets, and like you get this pretty much everywhere. You can feel it in the dryness of your skin and your hair. And then I moved to San Francisco, which has much better water without all of this kind of just hard. I don't want to call
Mm.
it heavy metals, but it's just more like like I think it's a lot of calcium. Um, and my hair just like grew
Yeah.
and wasn't so dry. So maybe that is something also
Oh no, of
that your
course.
clients might notice.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. That's a great point.
So one thing I'm curious about is like, can your home be too clean? I know some of the things you're addressing are not exactly like maybe the cleaning products, dust, things that are going to be a little bit more of that effect. But do you believe that there is something where there might be a problem with like over sterilization of the home?
Well, I think there is a big problem if you're using toxic cleaning products, obviously.
Yep.
Most of the products in the supermarket have a whole list of toxic ingredients that are very harmful for your health. So we also do recommend clients make the switch. Our recommended brand in America is Branch Basics, which is like a good, clean, non-toxic brand. So those toxic cleaning compounds can have a huge impact on health. Also, if you're using them on your faucets and your sink, that can go into your drinking water as well and cause a lot of issues there as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do think there is an issue with these toxic cleaning compounds, 100%. And also lots of other household products in your home. Like when you start going down the rabbit hole, you'll see like your toiletries, a lot of them have toxic compounds. Yeah, your kitchen supplies, a whole bunch of things.
When I think about like the future of housing, do you think that this is something that may be included in maybe an assessment of a home before you buy it? Or maybe in just a rating that I can imagine like a Zillow profile where you're just like, our environmental rating is A, kind of the way you would for an energy rating, for example. Do you think that's something that we will see in the future?
100%, 100%. We definitely think that's where the industry is going. Like you have the structural home inspections before you purchase a home. We
Hmm.
think the home health component will definitely be an aspect. There's also a lot of opportunity in the industry for
Hmm.
other services, which are other home services, which apply the lens of health to their existing service. So, for example, builders who start looking at building a home, but with the health through the health lens.
Hmm.
Every single home service which starts to look at the home and apply the health lens is definitely a big opportunity there. Um, Even other things in the home like your furniture, your paint, a huge opportunity in the industry.
Yeah, I could see it being a combination of public awareness that would drive this. Maybe there's like you do see an increase in real estate property value when you when you list these things publicly,
Mm,
and then and then obviously that can then like that trickles then into design,
yeah,
especially if you have the opportunity to design from scratch rather than or when you're renovating or however you can
yeah,
implement
100%.
that.
Yeah,
Do,
100%.
Do you think like cities are going to start thinking about that on that level? So I think we're kind of thinking about it on the person, on like kind of the individual level where it's like the homeowner is taking these initiatives into their own hands. But do you think this could also rise, I think escalate in importance that somebody's not actually putting a power line underneath someone's home,
Yes.
necessarily.
I think it will eventually. The only point I would say is that regulations are typically around 20 to 30 years behind the latest
Yep.
research. So a lot of the parameters that we test do have regulatory standards. It's just they're based on like 30-year-old research, and where research has advanced significantly in that time. So maybe in the future, regulations will start to change. I think they will. Just needs to kind of, hopefully that gap can shorten. The other thing is that public awareness of all of these different things is starting to grow. Still very early, but we think that's going to continue to grow and get more attention, and that could trigger some more of these like structural changes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the same in medicine as well. Everything takes 20 or 30 years. And then we also, as we go through science, we just start looking at these things under more critical lens, and then we can update the or at least we can then update the regulation. But yes, it takes time, which is unfortunate, especially in this day and age where we have such faster access to information. It would be nice for the bureaucracy to speed up a little bit when we do find out something that can really change everything. So I was thinking, I live in an urban center. So I live in central Lisbon, and I often have like my windows open, or I also use the AC, I use the heat. What should I be worried about in terms of the air quality that I'm experiencing in my home?
Yeah, number one thing to look at is particulate matter. So you want to, and the easiest way to address that is with a good quality air filter.
Okay.
So just get an air filter for your home. Make sure it's the right size for your home though. And the number one metric to look at is the clean air delivery rate. It's basically how much throughput the air filter has.
Mm-hmm.
And as a simple rule, if you multiply that number by 1.5, it tells you the coverage of the area it can cover in square feet. So if the number is 200, it's good for a 300 square foot room.
And this is to get an air purifier.
Air purifier, yeah, a standalone air purifier. We like the Kowei models. They give you the most bang for your buck. If someone in the home is very sensitive and VOCs are a concern, you'd like a filter with a bit more carbon. So there's other brands which are good for that, like IQ Air or Austin Air. But generally, a Kowei filter will do a good job.
Okay. What about Dyson?
Dyson, it depends on the model.
Okay.
I'll just check the clean air delivery rate.
Okay.
And just make sure it's sized appropriately. One other quick tip is to leave it running on the highest number you can, not on auto. Auto means it's only triggered when particulate matter reaches a certain concentration, and it can mean that smaller particles accumulate in the meantime. So it's better to leave it constantly running at the highest setting that's comfortable in terms of noise. But beyond the particulate matter, ventilation is also quite an important thing. So I'll keep doing I'll recommend monitoring it. So I actually have this device which monitors CO2 levels in the home. And if levels start to get above 800 parts per million to 1,000 parts per million, you start to have cognitive issues. And also, if your bedroom has elevated levels, it can cause sleep issues as well. Okay. So I recommend monitoring that and opening windows, etc., when needed.
This is something that I actually used to get in a big argument with an ex-boyfriend about CO2 levels in the home, because I lived in Berlin. It's freezing outside. Something that the Germans do is they always talk about this, like, it's kind of just this Luft, it's air, but they'll open the windows entirely and to circulate the whole air in the flat, letting out all the heat, basically. And I would be so cold and so upset with this because he had to have the windows open for like 10 minutes, and I would be like curled up on the couch in a blanket to do this, because his argument was that he felt the CO2 in the room was too high because we hadn't opened the windows in a long time. But I was like, but the energy that we're wasting to reheat the whole flat by this 10-minute opening, this was anyway the argument. So I sort of was in this disbelief that the CO2 could raise to such a level that would be so problematic to us. Am I wrong, Jay?
Yes, I think you are wrong.
No!
well, I'll make 2 points on this. The first one is, we use CO2 as a proxy for ventilation. There's some evidence that it's not actually CO2 accumulating that causes these issues. It's actually other things that accumulate when ventilation is pure. It's like volatile organic compounds, metabolic byproducts. But if you use CO2 as a proxy for ventilation and make adjustments based on that number, it's still an effective thing to do. That's the first thing. The other point is this contrast between energy efficiency and like health is it can be a big issue. Like, for example, in hotels, a lot of these high-end hotels, which are energy efficient, don't let you open the windows, and they recycle air between the rooms. So you might have CO2 levels that are reaching 2,500, 3,000 parts per million, which is like well beyond what can cause issues, and you can't do anything about it because you can't open the windows. I think there are some sacrifices to be made in terms of the energy efficiency side of things in order to make the home healthier. Also, with mold, the modern trend towards airtight homes has created the perfect breeding ground for mold, because it traps in all of the air, the moisture, and the mold spores, and increases the likelihood of mold there as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you are wrong.
That's really a shame. I didn't want you to say that, actually, because I really was holding my ground on this argument that it was such a waste of energy to open the windows for so long in the freezing. Okay, so now in my current home, I have amazing airtight windows. They're really good for sound. But in general, Lisbon homes are just drafty, just like super drafty as hell. They're built to let heat escape. And so would my CO2 levels in probably a draftier place, also like the San Francisco house that I lived in was also just super drafty. And so this may be just by natural design of this old home, I wouldn't have to worry about the CO2 as much as then a modern build in Germany, for
Exactly.
example, which is like super airtight.
Exactly, yeah. I would agree with that. But the best thing to do is start monitoring it.
Okay.
We recommend that our Net 4 Home, it's this device. It's the most accurate one, has a long battery life. So I'd recommend just starting to monitor it. But it sounds like you're doing everything right. You're ventilating the drafty home. Like I don't think it's a huge issue.
Yeah, my natural living in a drafty home that lets all my heat escape. It's so effective. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it. Okay, so what about just sort of like airflow? Like, would you also just kind of recommend? You said running that air purifier all the time. Would you recommend having one if somebody has a home that has 2 levels and one in every room? One in every level? What would you recommend?
We'd recommend sizing it appropriately, using that clean air delivery rate we recommended. We'd recommend prioritizing the bedrooms and the other areas where you spend the most amount of time. But you can use the ratio I gave earlier to size it appropriately and make sure you're getting full coverage in your home.
Okay. What is the smallest thing that someone could do tonight, immediately after they listen to this podcast, to make their home a bit healthier?
Yes, I would say 2 things. One, just turn your Wi-Fi off at night. That's a very simple thing you can do. If you want to wait a day, order a bulb and put a healthier bulb in your lamp and use that in the evening. Those are two very, very quick things you can do, which will make a huge impact. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So turn our Wi-Fi off at night, and to do that, I have to just unplug. I just unplug the Wi-Fi because I don't think I have like a switch on my router, so I just yank the cord out.
Yank it out, or you can buy a kill switch. So you can get like a switch with a remote, which you can just press and turn it off at night.
Okay, I like that a lot more. That's easy.
It's easier, yeah. And you can also get a plug with a timer. So it just automatically turns off like between whatever hours you're not going to be using your Wi-Fi at 1 a.m. or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good recommendation because I think I would prefer that, because what I love the most about my Philips Hue lights is that I use them as my alarm in the morning. So I don't like to wake up with sound. I find that it's really disruptive and jarring. And so I have the lights gently turn on to mimic the sunrise, especially as we come into the winter season where the sun isn't going to come up at the hour that I want to wake up. And so I would need my Wi-Fi to be on so that my lights are connected. But if I'm on a timer, then I could have that turn on maybe at 5 a.m. and then the lights come on at 6 or even closer in time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just so you know, the Philips Hue is leading to other like radio frequency radiation, just as an FYI. But there's also, but also if it's helping you with waking up and also makes your home like nicer at night, that if you look at the net effect, it could be positive. So
yeah,
but it's worth keeping in mind.
Okay, good to keep in mind, because I do think that the overall net positive of me using the Philips Hue is going to outweigh it.
Yeah.
But if there are so you would not recommend smart bulbs at all?
Anything smart, wireless, connected is emitting some radio frequency, some more than others, but it is emitting some radio frequency.
Which are the worst ones?
In terms of?
Like for devices. So my Alexa, my Sonos speakers, my Philips Hue.
Sonos speakers are a big one.
Okay.
Well, actually, baby monitors are one of the worst offenders which we find, because they're so close to the baby, who are more susceptible to these environmental toxin exposure, and the fields which are emitted are super high because it's video and audio streaming.
Right.
So those are a big issue. You can buy a baby monitor shield, So you can put like a transparent shield in front of it, which will reflect the radio frequency levels. Or in an ideal world, you can switch to an Ethernet enabled camera. But the tech isn't there yet to where it has all the same features that you want from a baby monitor. So there are some compromises, but the baby monitor shield's quite a good thing people can do.
Okay. So you're saying there's a market opportunity out there for an ambitious entrepreneur who wants to make the Ethernet connected EMF free baby monitor device. Great. I'm going to go build that.
You should, yeah. We've started exploring it. Like we have a whole list of ideas of like things that we wish existed. Another one is a good shower filter. So in an ideal world, we'd recommend a whole home filter, which filters all the water going into your home and protects your shower, your taps, etc. But it's a bit of an inconvenience for some people. So a shower filter is a good middle ground, but there's not that many good shower filters that will remove all of the concerning things that we see. So that's also an opportunity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities.
They're just like charcoal filters. Because I have Philips charcoal filter on my shower because Lisbon also has a water that's a bit like calcy, and it does and everyone affects their hair. So what is the best shower filter on the market in your opinion?
The Pristine Hydro has a good shower filter. The main thing, most of the popular brands aren't going to remove VOCs. And that's the most common issue that we see and the most harmful issue that we find in the shower water. And Pristine Hydro does the best job. But I think there's lots of room to kind of, for new products which specifically focus at removing the most harmful contaminants from the water.
Okay. Do you have another product that you wish existed? We have the water filter. We have the baby monitor.
Not really a product, more about a technology.
Okay.
I think there needs to be better mold testing technologies. So right now on the market, just the testing, there's pros and cons to each testing method. And there is some exciting developments for like next generation sequencing, which I'm excited about, which will give people a much better understanding of what the species are that are present in their homes. For a bit more context, a lot of inspectors rely on air sampling when they go to homes. Landlords like it because it's got a high false negative rate. So it might say there's no mold when there really is mold because it's heavily dependent on the airflow patterns at the time. Yeah. So that's an issue with the mold sampling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be quite expensive to do. Like, I think because you mentioned it was like full genome sequencing or something along the lines where we'd be doing more of a molecular test rather than something that's like an air quality test. Do you anticipate that would be a really expensive thing to do when you test for mold?
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully over time it will drop down. Yeah. And there may be some kind of on-site sequencing which you can do to fully map all the species that are present in the home.
I don't know if knowing all the species, but then it's like, is there some argument? I guess this goes back to my too clean question where, okay, mold, obviously we don't want to have mold, but if you are detecting other types of microbes that might be in the home, maybe if you have pets or something like this, that actually could be beneficial to your immune system, because we do see that children that grow up in really hypoallergenic environments have higher cases of asthma than those that grow up on a farm, for example. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think about, I guess, getting people too into the paranoia of being too clean?
Well, I would distinguish mold from that other argument. I agree with your second point around the too clean, ultra sterilized point is a bad thing. But on the mold side, I think that's more of a distinct issue. I think there is value in knowing all the species of mold that are present in the home. You can also do things like measure the outdoor baseline, compare that to the indoor levels and see which levels are indoors and versus what the normal kind of natural mold species are. And we do part of that in our assessments. We use dust sampling for our assessments, and we'll do multiple samples indoor and outdoors to distinguish what the true dangerous internal mold species are in our assessment. But there's still a lot more you can do in that space. So I'm excited to see what comes out.
I'm sure that's a great thing for my listeners that are in biology, and knowing that this is a real need, this is a real problem, to be able to detect all the species of mold in someone's home so that people can take action. So we just talked about the products that you want to bring into existence. What about the current products that are on the market that are like totally overhyped for detecting things in the home or cleanliness in the home or kind of just this whole space that you're in?
Yeah, well, On the EMF side, there's a big trend for buying these like stickers, which people stick to their phone and are meant to reduce EMFs. And those companies do make claims that are very hard to verify. We've not seen any compelling evidence that those actually have an impact. We don't really recommend them ourselves. They might be doing something, but we haven't really seen the compelling evidence, but they are extremely popular.
I have not heard about that before, but maybe it's just the region that I'm in that I'm not seeing those targeted ads yet.
Yeah, I think they're big in America and the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jay, thank you so much for the conversation today. Where can people get in touch with you? Where can they find Lightwork Home? Where can they schedule an assessment with you?
Oh, yeah. Great speaking to you. You can check out our website, www.lightworkhome.com, or you can message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to reach out and connect with anyone who wants to.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much for a very enlightening talk. I learned a lot. And now I don't know if I'm going to switch out my Philips Hue because of this conversation. But it's good to know that I should be thinking about all my Wi-Fi connected devices in my home. Thanks so much.
Great to meet you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Ciao, ciao.